Hello, everyone. I am Brother Kelly Hughes, chaplain of the arts. We are broadcasting from the Valiant Theater here in the heart of Winnipeg's greasy Tenderloin District. You are watching on YouTube or one of the socials or listening on UMFM 101.5. This is Kelly Hughes Live Slices. Thank you so much for stopping by. We do appreciate it. Very excited to have an exciting and an excited guest.
Yeah,
Melissa Martin,
yeah.
writer. Can we call you journalist?
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
I think
You've
that's the technical term.
you've brought a guitar,
Yeah,
musician.
I
Are you
just
going to play
no,
something?
I just didn't want to leave it in my car.
Here, I thought you were going to play something, and we were going to have
uh,
a little
no,
concert. That's nice.
no, yeah, not yet, but have me back
Not
sometime.
yet.
Maybe I will.
We I've been doing this. I've been doing this a little bit. We don't have an air date
Yeah,
yet for like this will be up probably
yeah, no
for
worries.
those of you listening, we're doing this like early September. Next week it'll be up on YouTube,
September.
and then next month maybe it'll be on UMFM. But I've done a few of these already, and I had this terrible couch here.
Yeah.
That was this awful orange,
Oh, really? So you had a
orange
little,
on
yeah,
orange on orange, like that I was trying to get rid of at one of my sales here.
sales.
So
And so
we're
you thought you'd advertise it like that? Like,
n-
look,
no,
everybody.
no, I practically gave it away. But actually, we're just in the normal.
Yeah,
We're the normal chairs,
the
like the
normal
normie
chairs. Yeah,
thing.
very
Uh,
comfortable.
but we are sitting in. If you don't know, we are sitting in the former Christ the King Ukrainian Catholic Church on Logan, which we are turning into a performance space called the Valiant Theater. And when we get open, we'll have a Melissa Martin performance.
Oh yeah, count me
Uh,
in. Opening night. I'm sure everyone will come to see that. People will be lining up.
so it's kind of appropriate, like
Yeah,
you just got back from Ukraine.
I did.
Kind of appropriate that we're sitting here in a
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been
Ukrainian.
in spent a lot of time in Ukrainian churches in the last few years.
How when did you get back?
I got back about a week and a half ago. So Sunday, the
So
morning of Sunday the 31st, I landed in Winnipeg.
very recent. So is it
Yeah.
kind of like, do you have your sea legs yet?
It's this week's a little better.
Yeah,
It's still a little surreal, especially because most of my first week is just like getting unpacked, getting all
yeah,
my stuff back, like just really boring grocery runs, things like that. So I haven't seen much of the city yet.
yeah,
So kind of every time I go somewhere, I haven't been there yet in like
yeah,
3 years. And so, which isn't, I mean, it's not like 3 years is forever, but it's long enough.
yeah,
And it's a little surreal. Like, it's just a little weird to be. And you start noticing, oh, that's different. And that, and
yeah.
it's just strange to be, it is strange to be back.
When did you go to Ukraine?
So, like, I mean, I had been on two trips in 2022, like
Yeah.
long trips, like in early 22, and then in the summer, like August, September. But then I kind of moved there sort of semi permanently in January of 23,
Okay.
and then I basically never left Ukraine after that until I came back. Like from January 23 until now, I had even only left Ukraine once for like 2 days to go to a friend's wedding in
Where?
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah, and I just basically ran there and ran back as
Yeah.
fast as I could. So basically, I've just been in Ukraine since January 23.
And so the first time you went was, when did you go at first?
So the first time I went was right when the full scale invasion happened. The Free Press sent me on this really long work trip, and most of that was in Poland
Yeah.
due to insurance issues. They couldn't
Right.
really have me go over the border. But at the end of that work trip, I went myself to, and then I was
Yeah.
just Lviv. So I went into Lviv for a little bit. And then I went back in August, September of that year for like another kind of month. And that was Kiev. That was the first time I went to Kiev. So August, September of 2022.
Has it been 3.5 years already?
Yeah, incredibly since the full scale invasion. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's which is yeah, it's wild to think about. Especially there, it's unbelievable. Yeah, 3.5 years over now.
Because I mean, I'm thinking like, oh, is it two? Like, I
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
and also, as I get older and since the pandemic, like life is kind of a flat circle. Like
I know.
I'm very like, somebody will send me a message, and I last talked to them 7 years ago.
Yeah,
I'll see,
time moves differently the older you get. Like even for me, it feels very strange to think of. Man, it was like I mean, I was gone almost 3 years, more than two and a half. Like that's a bit of time,
yeah,
Like it's a bit of time to be away from like your friends, your job, your stuff. Like I had all my stuff here. Like I had
Yeah.
a whole car here that was just
Yeah.
hanging out. Like, and
Full
that's
disclosure,
a
I
long
know
time.
I know about your stuff because I moved it a couple
You
times
did move.
for
No,
the
actually, you were very
for
helpful. Yeah,
for the audience.
you were very helpful,
So
particularly yeah.
so why, I mean, why did you go, like, after you were done with the free press uh
So I had
thing?
done
Why did you
those
go?
right. So I'd done those two work trips, and the easy answer is I fell in love. Like that's the easy. Like I fell in love with in a number of different definitions of that term. You know, with the place, with the people, with a person. Like it was
Yeah.
just sort of a lot of factors. I mean, Ukraine is a really special place.
Mm,
I and it wasn't just me. You know, it's a lot of because there's a lot of foreign journalists that first went there and volunteers like who kind of were drawn there because of the war
yeah.
and then just didn't leave.
Yeah.
Like people would go home for like a month, rearrange their whole lives, and then come back like and
Yeah.
stay. Like, and I have so many friends that that was their exact story. Like myself, like we just didn't want to leave. Like we loved Ukraine, we loved the people, we loved living there. Kiev is a really special city. Like easily one of my favorite places I've ever been to, and also one of the most like it was a really well suited city for me in terms of what I like as a
Yeah.
city. I just loved exploring it. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more about the history, the culture, all this stuff. And over time, the longer I was there, like even my work kind of became less about the war and more about like I just want to understand this country.
Well, and I guess, I mean, as the war drags on, I imagine people just go about their business because it's just there, and you have to, I mean, you got stuff to do.
This is more or less it, and I think it's sometimes you know for those of us who've had the luck of living in sort of peaceful places, it is hard to imagine, but it's sort of life will kind of fill the space it has available, right?
Yeah.
So as long as there is space for people to live, they will build as full a life as they can in that space. And you know, Ukraine is a very large country. I mean, not large relative to Canada, but relative to Europe, right?
Yeah.
It's the largest country in Europe that's entirely within Europe. You
Right.
know, Russia's bigger, but some bits in you know Asia. So it's the largest like entirely European continent country,
The
and
largest not Russia,
the largest not
yeah,
Russia. Yeah,
European country. Yeah.
exactly. So it's very big, and so because of the successful defense of the Kiev region in early 2022, you know, Kiev is quite far from the front lines, and
Hmm.
everything west is even farther. You know, so there's quite a lot of the country that was, you know, kind of not directly threatened by sort of the short range weaponry that you get at the front, or
Hmm.
like, and so because of that, there was long periods of time where Kiev felt relatively safe.
Hmm.
That did start to change. This year has been quite bad. This
Yeah.
summer was very bad. But it was never totally safe. Like there's always these periodic air attacks, but for most of the first 2.5 years, let's say, they were
Hmm.
pretty um, brief and sparse, and maybe there'd be a bunch all at once, and they kind of stopped for a month, and um, but overall, you felt relatively safe there. And so life went on, you know, like you know, there was, you know, like in all ways, there was, you know, concerts and festivals and markets, and you know, you'd get bombed on a Tuesday morning and then go get your nails done, you know, like it sounds very strange, but life does go on, right, as
Hmm.
long as it can. And then kind of the way it worked in Ukraine is the closer you got to the front line, you would see that fall away.
Yeah.
So um you know, you get a little closer, like the closer you get to the front line, it's kind of the space to have life really starts disappearing. And then you get to some of these frontline cities of like Kramatorsk, where life is quite different, quite subdued, but still kind of possible, right,
Hmm.
like in limited ways. But then you get really close to the front line, and it's just the sort of pressure and the darkness of the war, you can, it just pervades everything, and it's also extremely dangerous. So that's kind of how it works there, right? But yeah, as you know, in a lot of the country, there was still kind of this room to have this sort of really great life. And but I say that with the caveat, because I don't want people to think I'm being flippant, is that the sort of you know, routine terror attacks, you just deal with, you know, you just learn to deal with. And like I said, this summer was incredibly bad in the capital. And there's also the fact that everybody is losing people, and everyone is losing a lot of people. You know, I lost a lot of friends there.
Yeah.
And you learn to deal with that. So it's I don't want to sound flippant,
It
like it's like,
doesn't.
oh, it was
No,
such a great party.
no, it
Like,
doesn't. It doesn't sound
yeah,
flippant. I get it. I mean, it's like even if you're living, in a place like Canada, um, when somebody dies
yeah,
in your life, you don't stop everything.
yeah.
You keep going, right? You go to work. You know what I mean.
This
You do the things because life doesn't grind to a halt.
life isn't the one thing you definitely learn there is that people are incredibly adaptable and
Yeah,
life is incredibly adaptable, like there's a number of really surreal, I have a laundry list of very surreal moments, very surreal scenes that will live in my head forever of kind of things I saw there, that kind of highlights some of that
things that you're putting
discrepancy.
in your book that you're writing.
Things I'll eventually put in the book. Yes.
Why'd you come back?
Logistics. I kind of I was on an unpaid leave of absence. So
Yeah,
it's been 2.5 years since I had a full salary. I was lucky enough to have some income during that time, just freelance.
yeah,
And I was still writing for the paper, but not on my salary, just more
yeah,
on a freelance rate. And I worked for the Globe and Mail, and I had a newsletter, but it was never a sustainable thing. And I
yeah,
always knew that, like, it was supposed to be a 1 year. Keep in mind, like, when I originally took,
yeah,
I said I was going to be a 1 year leave of absence. And then it was at the end of that year, I was like, okay, I'm doing another one. At the end of the second one, I was like, I'm still not coming back. And, it just got to the point, I think, financially, I needed to. Logistically, I think, my employers, I think, understandably wanted a little bit of clarity on what my sort of
yeah,
long-term plans were. And so those were sort of the main factors. But then also, I would say, I think mentally I did need a break.
yeah.
This summer, like I said, in the capital was very difficult, and I had always dealt with the air attacks relatively well. Like in 20, when I was there in 23 and 24, I was pretty much fine.
Mm,
Like, they're not fun, there's never a point in time which it's like a fun thing to
yeah,
go through, but I was okay. I
mm,
felt pretty safe, and I'm like, okay, the chances of it landing on my building are like, pretty low. But just the way that their tactics shifted this year,
yeah,
was really designed to maximize civilian terror and sort of disruption to, like, the psychology of the population, with a lot of that focused on the capital. But it wasn't just the capital. I want to say that, like, it was all kinds of other
yeah.
places
But that's where
were
you were.
suffering this, but that's where I was.
Yeah.
And certainly the capital got more of it than, say, Lviv. Um, and I was really struggling, and I wasn't the only one. I kind of, May, June, July this year were horrible, and sort of by the end of July, I just wasn't doing okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't sleep at all anymore, because we'd have these all night attacks, right? Like, the way attacks worked kind of most of this year was you'd get maybe 400 drones a night, right? So the drones would start reaching the capital around like 11,
Mm-hmm.
11:30 at night, maybe midnight, and they'll last until about dawn. Sometimes later, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
9 in the morning. Sometimes they're still shooting them down at 9 or 9:30, like people driving to
Mm-hmm.
work, and there's air defense going on. But let's say you get these like 400 drones, 8 hours of constant over you, right? Like, because you can hear them, they have this like this. They call them mopeds because it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a moped engine, but they get quite loud when they're close to you because they're big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not these aren't little drones. They're like the
Mm-hmm.
size of like a
A moped.
no, they're like the size of like a hang glider, like
Okay.
even like a very small airplane, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, they're quite large and they're very explosive. So you can hear them coming, and then you can hear all this air defense, and then if they explode over you, it's very loud.
Yeah.
Like, and you can feel the shock waves, car alarms going off. So now imagine that with like dozens upon dozens and dozens of them, right? For starting at like midnight until dawn. And so you're getting that almost every night.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting this constant waves of drones. You're just like, and then many nights, somewhere in the middle of that, usually like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, suddenly you get missiles, right? So it's like drones, 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 ballistic missiles, drones, 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 missiles, and then now it's like dawn, and you're like, you haven't slept. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You haven't slept. Or if you did, it was in the metro. If you managed to make it there in time, and if you didn't, you were probably just sleeping in your bathtub or in whatever cockroach infested basement that would definitely be a death trap if anything landed in your
Mm-hmm.
building. Or we're just hanging out in your apartment or in bed because there's
Yeah.
what else do you do? and your nerves are so fried. And now
Mm-hmm.
because you're not sleeping, and then I think for a lot of people, you start getting this thing where you start dreading the nighttime. Like during the day, I'd be reasonably okay,
Yeah.
but once it got dark, like I just felt like this horrible feeling, like because you're waiting for the next one,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would start, and you'd be like, "Are we gonna get missiles tonight?" Because the drones you can kind of deal with, but the missiles are just so loud, and um
Do you think you have PTSD?
I think I'm starting to think that. I
Yeah.
didn't think I did because I kind of like nothing ever directly sort of happened to me. I was never like super proximal to like a strike. Um, but I definitely started realizing like I was getting like the summer I got so much more reactive to stuff. And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I just stopped sleeping. Like we would even have these rare quiet nights, where nothing was happening, and I would just be lying in bed, fully clothed, staring at my ceiling, like just like waiting.
Yeah.
And then finally, at like 6 in the morning, if we didn't have anything, I'd be like, okay. And then I'd sleep for like 2 hours. But I was so messed up, like I wasn't functioning very well. And just every time we did get an attack, um, I just I could tell I was dealing with it worse and worse and worse until the 2 nights before I left. So just 2 weeks ago tonight, actually,
Mm-hmm.
um, we had a really bad one. It just was came out of nowhere. There wasn't much warning, and I like I'm not ashamed to say I had an almost complete mental breakdown in my bathtub. Like I was like I can't deal with this anymore. Um,
So you
and
just you decided to go like,
I was already leaving at that
okay,
point. And
okay,
again, like this sounds insane because I'm talking about how horrible this was, but like being honest, like the majority of the reason I went was just financial and
yeah.
logistics.
How are
Yeah,
you sleeping now?
amazing. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Um, yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, having great sleep and refamiliarizing myself with just what it feels like to walk around without having this like
Yeah.
tension with you all the time. Um, yeah, it's definitely body and mind feels better, and I think I'm definitely gonna go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if kind of as long term full time as I was, but I'll definitely be back. Like probably sooner rather than later. But I think you need that rest
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of have the psychological armor to deal with an attack. You know, and over time this summer, I didn't have that armor anymore.
Um, so you said that a lot of people went, a lot of people stayed. Uh, you
Mhm.
ever you ever listen to the Bulwark? The
Uh,
Bulwark is like an anti-Trump
oh no, I don't.
news
Yeah,
thing, but they have a guy who and I can't remember his name, but I feel like he's Irish, who is came from Ireland to Ukraine,
yeah,
and who reports periodically on Ukraine. He's not even he's sort of a I don't know if you call him a citizen journalist, or I mean he's just a guy who's in Ukraine doing
yeah, yeah, yeah,
English English language sort of
yeah.
reporting stuff. Um, and like I say, that's periodically. I mean, the thing is, it's been so long that it's kind of in and out of the news cycle.
Oh wait, what's his name?
I can't remember what his name is, but I
Okay,
feel like he's Irish.
okay, okay. Yeah,
Um, but over here, Ukraine is in and out of the news
yeah,
based on usually it's around Trump and what Trump's doing
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
whatever. I mean,
I know. Yeah,
that's kind of the hook. And so, I'm pretty. I listen to the news every day, and I'm pretty plugged into what uh, a lot of the sort of political stuff that we get here
yeah,
about that. Um, but I'm interested in you're talking about the people, and you're talking about, and that's kind of, I think, when you think of a war,
mm-hmm.
there's a war happening over there, and there's all these people, and they're getting bombs dropped on
Mm-hmm.
them. Uh, it's a little bit hard to. Um, I just think when it's not close to you,
Yep,
it's hard to kind of to get the granular. Like here, so we're sitting in this space right now on Logan, and in the park next to us, there's 6 or 7 tents right now,
I saw.
and then a couple of people that are just sleeping not in tents.
Yeah,
And so, if you want to talk about the homeless,
yeah,
um, people in Fort Garry or Charleswood or whatever, they're going to have one idea.
yeah,
But I mean, I walk my dogs right by
yeah,
all the people and weave through and whatever. And
yeah. Of
so,
course.
and I'm not living with them, but I mean, I see that it's like individual people,
Yeah.
right? These are people that have uh, stories, and it's the same thing in the midst of a war.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here in this space,
Space.
one of the our big kind of our slogan is art will save us all. And so you said something earlier about you know, concerts and the different
Yeah,
things
yeah.
going on. Um, Tell me what the artists and the musicians and the writers, tell me what they're what they're doing.
In Ukraine?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
not here because you just got back.
yeah. I know. Thank you, because I have no idea what's happening in Winnipeg, to be honest. Like, first of all, to say art in Ukraine is incredible, and I'm always fascinated by how accessible the arts is there. Like, they have these amazing, like, like modern art shows that will be like very affordable,
Hmm.
or like these kind of like big shows with like all these like collections by like great Ukrainian, modern art masters and stuff like that. And it's like $3,
Hmm.
entrance, like, well, like 375 Canadian,
Hmm.
like, super affordable. They have all these artists. They seem to support it a lot. Like, there's you kind of see local art everywhere,
Yeah.
and some of the artists do quite well on social media. There's
Even
like,
even sorry, even in the midst of this war, there somebody is still funding the arts.
well, but here's the thing, I
You don't
don't
know.
think there's much, like, I don't know the whole funding model
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
but it's like, I feel like the funding is pretty grassroots for the most
Yeah.
part, right? Like, there's they yeah, but yeah, they do, like, they have this huge, like, in Kiev, there's this huge, it's called the Pinchuk, contemporary art. It's like a this then they have fantastic exhibitions, a lot of
Mm.
them related to like art in dialogue with the war. But they have like and it's funded by this like billionaire, this Pinchuk and his wife. Yeah, they have this other one, this Ukrainian house that has these huge, but then also these little shows, these
Yeah.
little galleries. There's local art everywhere. Music, yeah, lots of music. Concerts took a while to come back, because like big ones,
Yeah.
because for a while you weren't allowed to have like kind of any kind of big gathering, and they kind of started loosening that up a little bit. So but then it got to like they were having like big concerts and then big music festivals, like
Mm.
huge. It's a little awkward though, because in most of these, if there's like an error alert goes off, they have to stop it,
Oh.
which like that happens pretty often. And
Yeah.
like, and it's often, there are a lot of things that trigger air
Yeah.
alarms, and a lot of them are not an actual attack on Kiev. Like, they're
Mm.
just precautionary things. But going to a concert or movie there is super not funny, I wouldn't say, but it's amusing for that reason, because like, I went to see Dune 2 there.
Yeah.
Like, they're showing it in English, in one theater,
Yeah.
so we went to see it. And I mean, that's like a 3-hour movie,
Yeah.
or whatever. And
Yeah.
I remember saying, I hope to God an air alarm doesn't go off like in the last 20 minutes of this movie, because if it does, like, I'm not coming back and sitting through
And
sitting through all of this to see it again.
were there any air alarms?
No, we
No.
managed to make it through, but that was like my nightmare. It
Yeah.
was like you make it all the way to the end of this like concert, this movie or something, and right before the big finale, you kind of, you know.
So you don't
Um,
just wait 15 minutes. I mean, you're done.
Typically they'll last like an hour. Well, sometimes a
Yeah.
little less. Like, less is like half hour, but like, usually you're looking at like an hour. Even if
Yeah.
nothing's happening. Um, and usually the way it works for these things is, yeah, it's just kind of over now at this point, or maybe they'll start up. Depends on
Mm-hmm.
what their timing is like. But no, art there is amazing. Like, and the musicians are really amazing. They have, one thing that's interesting. They have like, man, Ukrainian has like bookstores. I need to learn more about that. There's bookstores everywhere, and there's a really vibrant Ukrainian publishing industry.
Yeah.
They publish so many domestic books, and they're so cool. Like,
But I mean, it's the center of Ukrainian language and culture,
I think,
and I guess, I mean, I guess that is almost that is one of the bastions against Russian, right?
sure,
I
yeah,
mean, because I know that in places like uh, in places like Crimea, like uh, certain like Ukrainian education is outlawed, isn't it?
yeah. Actually,
So
I have a friend that was a Ukrainian, like, he's from Crimea, and he was a Ukrainian teacher in Crimea. before
Yeah.
2014, and obviously was no longer a Ukrainian teacher after that. Now he lives in Kiev. He fled, but
So I mean that must be part of it, right? Like they're, for them to maintain that
it's
robust culture is part of fighting back.
they're absolutely, yeah, there absolutely is part of that for sure. It's like there's two things. It's like yes, there's definitely part of that, and I think that's very present right now. Like people
Mm,
talk about that. Kind of all the big musicians, performers, artists. They all kind of do, fundraising for the military,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes they'll do these frontline tours, or they'll play in bunkers, and songs about the war and songs about. So that's true. But then, I mean, but there's also a lot of it. To be honest, is just young people want culture relevance. So
Yeah.
that, young people want like dance pop, and young people want like fun books, and young people want this. So it's interesting because there's still a lot of kind of culture going on that, not that it's not affected by the war, but at least superficially it's kind of like not related to it.
How many people live there?
So I mean, it's a little in flux right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
because of how many
yeah.
people are displaced in different ways. But I think it was, kind of roughly like 37 million prior
So,
to the full
yeah.
scale. A lot of people left, some people have come back. It's, yeah.
So about the same size population wise as Canada.
I think in terms of the number of people who are in country right now, it'd be a fair bit less.
Yeah,
Like it's just because so many people are gone.
yeah.
Yeah, but let's say
Where have people gone?
Poland. Yeah, like Europe, Western Europe. I mean, Canada has quite a lot. I think end up being like what 400,000 or something. Like we gave away almost 1 million of those visas, but I think about 400,000 ended up being
Yeah.
used. But Europe is millions, right?
That has
Like
been a very interesting thing to watch in the
yeah,
last couple of years for me
yeah,
because like all uh just uh when I'm dealing with people on Facebook Marketplace,
yeah.
or when I'm in the store and there's a cashier, or if I'm in a um, I don't know if they still do, but Freshco on Sargent was bringing in Ukrainian
I
stuff.
know. I saw that.
So
I saw that people were saying that to me. Like they have these like those Kievsky cakes, like the
okay,
Roshan Kievsky cakes, like
I was there's like
Roshan.
Roshan.
Yeah,
There's candy which is so
yeah.
good,
I saw that.
and I'm diabetic and struggling with
Like,
it a bit right now, so I'm not buying any. But that's been interesting to me to kind of watch that influx of people. And I was having a I was having a sale here, I guess maybe last year, and just sort of coincidentally, um, there were three visiting scholars from Ukraine
yeah.
who were somewhere else, and the person that they were talking to, it was Kristen from Ragpickers, and
Yeah.
I don't know
Wow.
what they were doing, but they were
Yeah.
somewhere, and she said, "Oh, well, you should go over to see Kelly's place. He's in this old
Yeah.
Ukrainian
Yeah.
Catholic church,"
Yeah.
and so they came,
That's
and
awesome.
so we talked about the big Myron Levitsky mural up there,
Yeah.
and they were like very told them what we were doing with turning this into a performance space.
Yeah.
They were very concerned that we were going to like paint over the
Paint
mural or
over. Yeah.
destroy
Right.
it or whatever, and I said no,
Yeah. You would want to keep it.
the Christ stays in the picture.
Yeah.
um, but that was interesting to me because I think probably I told you this story before we started taping this, but um, Myron Levitsky uh, was a guy who was in Europe during World War II, was a
Yeah.
refugee, ended up in Hungary, and then he came here in 1949. He was, of course, Ukrainian, came here and was within the first year that he was in Canada, was making his living again as an
That's so
artist,
great. Yeah.
painted this whole church. This was kind of the first thing he did, and he was in Winnipeg for a few years, and he did a bunch of like you know, um, edited some Ukrainian uh,
Newspaper. Yeah.
newspapers, journals,
Publications.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Then he ended up in Toronto. He painted some churches there.
Yeah.
He became quite famous for his book plates,
Oh, cool.
and so here was a guy who had to get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Yeah.
60. How's my math here? However many years ago that was, 70, something years ago.
Almost 80.
And then we have this new batch
Yeah.
of people, and here I am talking to these scholars
Yeah.
who are um, uh, one of them I think goes back a bit. I'm friends with one of them on Facebook, and
Yeah.
Olga, and she posts some stuff, and she sometimes is there and sometimes she's here.
Yeah.
She was teaching at U of M, but um, so it's but what was interesting specifically to me was kind of a weird thing. So the thing that I told you before was in 1901. This was a Swedish Lutheran church, and actually 2 blocks over,
Yeah.
not even 2 blocks over, there was a Swedish Presbyterian church.
Okay. Okay.
And then the Swedes just ran out of steam, right?
Yeah.
They assimilated or whatever. And so Christian Cassidy, right?
Yeah.
So he talks about all these areas and all these different, he actually does a little walking tour
Yeah.
of the immediate area here, and he talks about the different, these people came, and then these people came, and then these people came.
Yeah.
Right. And so right now, we've got uh lots of uh, um, newcomers around here in various Manitoba housing and stuff like that over
Yeah.
here. Because in the park, on my way over here, in addition to passing the 7 tents and whatever,
Yeah.
I passed. There's people. There's a lot of um, Muslim people from Africa.
Mhm.
So hear people, see people wearing their hijabs and talking and speaking Arabic and whatever,
Mhm.
and those people will eventually go somewhere else.
Mm.
Um, so that is interesting to me, that kind of ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is the reason that we ended up in this church. Well, one of the reasons is because a few years ago, the Ukrainian Catholic Church was closing its churches
Yeah.
because everybody was 80, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this church had like 7 old ladies going to it. So then they like closed it and sold it and rolled it up and made them
Yeah.
rolled up the dice, the parish or whatever with the one on Boyd or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But so what was interesting to me is you don't normally see a big second influx of
Yeah.
people from another country that can actually take advantage of some of that kind of
Yeah.
infrastructure and some of that, you know what I mean? That to me, that is very
With.
interesting that all of a sudden all these churches, like, because
Yeah.
all the Roman Catholic churches that all used to be full of Italians and whatever,
Yeah.
now they're full of Filipinos. I mean, they
Filipinos.
can be full of whoever, but the Ukrainian Orthodox churches and the Ukrainian Catholic churches are
Yeah.
very specific.
Yeah.
You're not really going to go unless you're Ukrainian. So um, that to me is really, really interesting, and
Yeah.
I guess that would make Winnipeg and Manitoba kind of attractive because there's strong support for
Yeah.
Ukraine here.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
some,
and Alberta, like the whole Prairie
yeah.
Provinces, right? Is kind of the. Yeah.
Vegreville is home of the world's
I
largest
know.
Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, this is like very Ukrainian territory in the the Prairie Provinces for sure.
yeah,
So.
yeah. So that's kind of interesting
Yeah.
uh, to me. Um,
I got a lot of mileage there telling people that we have a statue of Taras Shevchenko in front of our provincial
yeah.
building. Yeah, that went over really well. A few other things too. I'd
Yeah.
tell them little Ukrainian history bits about Winnipeg, and people found that quite
Do
interesting.
you have any Ukrainians in your wood pile?
In my
Your,
my background?
yeah, yeah.
No, I'm like the one Manitoban who's like neither Mennonite
No,
nor Ukrainian.
no Martenchiks.
No Martinchukes and no
No.
Martens, and
Yeah.
no, my parents were from the U.S., so they were just kind of waspy Michigan family. So yeah, none of that.
Do you have dual citizenship? Do you have American citizenship?
No, I was supposed to get it, but it's a bit of a long story. My parents didn't realize that I was supposed to get it,
Oh,
so they didn't apply for it, and they had to apply before I was 18. So I don't have it. My three older siblings do, but they were all born there.
yeah,
And the three youngest, well, my brother probably does now because he lives down there,
yeah,
but the three youngest, they didn't, because they didn't think we were adopted. Like the three youngest were
yeah,
adopted, so they thought we weren't eligible because
huh,
we were the only ones that were born in Canada
yeah,
and we were adopted, and so they thought, oh, they can't get it. so they just didn't bother. And basically, it turned out they never looked into it. And then, um,
Parents,
but
hey.
yeah, and there was a brief, like I think when I was like 20 or something, I remember being annoyed at my dad. I was like, why, And now I'm like, I don't care. I'm never going to that country ever
It's a
again.
terrible. It's not. I mean, and did you hear? So this is again, we don't. This is not topical because I don't know when this is going up. But just as we're talking here, a few hours ago, Charlie Kirk
Yeah.
was assassinated. The right wing, uh, you know, young millennial, not a likable guy, but I
Yeah.
mean, he was out, at a rally or at a thing or whatever, doing whatever he does, and uh, I guess not safe there either.
Yeah. Can't comment on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Americans these days. Leave it
what
at that.
what is the what are the in Ukraine? What's the general feeling about the Americans?
Um, people Ukrainians are fairly pragmatic, right? Like they're quite they tend to understand the situation and they tend to be, pretty understanding. Yeah, definitely there's a sense, I mean, certainly at the beginning of the year with Trump and all everything,
Mm.
there's a very strong sense of betrayal.
Well,
But I think people have adjusted to that
yeah,
now and just kind of moved on and been like, okay, well, we'll be doing this basically without the Americans, right? Like sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not right now, but let's say mostly not.
yeah,
So I think they, once that, yeah, there's a sense of betrayal. People moved on, figured we're mostly doing that. I think the polls generally show Ukrainians still see like the U.S. kind of has to have a role in like
yeah,
the eventual whatever the
yeah.
denouement of this war is. Um, so they kind of accept that America will be involved, but um, let's just say I think very few, like the majority of Ukrainians no longer trust them nor respect
Well,
them.
I mean, after Zelensky got humiliated in the
Well, and
Oval
and
Office, I
and
mean,
not
that
just
was.
humiliated, but I mean it wasn't just that incident. It was, Trump's policy has basically been to, coddle Vladimir Putin while
Mm-hmm,
saying these wild things about how Zelensky shouldn't have started this war. It's like,
mm-hmm,
oh, okay, well, one of these countries
yeah,
got invaded by the other one, and and people just kind of understand that it's, that you can't trust them anymore. I mean, at one point they keep shutting off, like, at one point earlier this year, they were even going to refuse to allow Ukraine to buy Patriot ammo, like buy,
yeah,
they were going to block Ukraine
yeah,
from buying, and Patriot missiles are used for defense, like they're
yeah,
air defense. These are the things that stop. They're the only things Ukraine has that can stop the ballistic,
mm-hmm,
in particular missiles. So it was like, and then the U.S. started allowing the sales again, and it's always kind of unclear, right? But it's like at some point this administration was trying to prevent Ukraine from buying what it needed to defend itself.
yeah,
And the other thing that's like very chilling, I just saw the other day, there's like a graph of like the number of combined missiles and drones that have been launched in Ukraine. And for a lot of like 2023 and 24, it was pretty low. Like not, no, I wouldn't say low. We're talking like six, seven, 800 a month, let's say, of the long range ones.
yeah,
Not this, we're not talking stuff along the front lines, but we're talking like the big drones
yeah,
and the missiles. Um, so actually, it sounds insane to say, oh, it was low. It was only like 800 a month, but everything's relative.
yeah,
But you can see in this chart, the late 2024, it starts ticking up, and then as soon as Trump takes office, it skyrockets. Like, and there's clearly a relationship there that they strongly believed once Trump was in office that they were unfettered
yeah.
to hit, you know, major cities in Ukraine as hard as they want, and that's why this year has been so bad.
Do you,
So,
do you know more about the mechanics of war than you feel like you'd like to?
I know more than I did, but like, not, I mean, but I would say I probably don't, but I still don't very
Yeah,
much, like, because it was never my area of reporting. It's not my
yeah.
area of work. So, like, yeah, I certainly know more than I used to, but not as much as, certainly not as much as a lot of experts.
How much do the people there hate Putin?
I mean, it's almost like, but it's interesting because it's almost like there's almost like a level of like, um, it's not like people walk around like Putin. It's just sort of like the sort of the understanding is collective that yeah, this we hate him, but
Yeah.
so it almost goes past the point
Right.
of like I don't know how to
It's just
explain it.
understood. It's the
It comes to
yeah.
yeah, it comes to some kind of like full circle moment where it's just like yeah, this is but the other thing too is, and I think a lot of Ukrainians will say this right away, is like, but most Ukrainians understand too. It's not just Putin. Like I think sometimes the sort of framing of things a lot in international media is Putin's war. It's Putin's war,
Mm,
and Ukrainians are the first to say that it's not. Like it's not just him. It's there's a whole system and a whole culture and a whole society around him that permits this, that
mm,
cheers this on. That I mean, because the thing is, keep in mind, Ukrainians all understand Russian. They can
yeah.
hear what is being said about them on Russian media,
Yeah.
which is openly genocidal. Like a lot of these like huge Russian news shows like or debate shows, just the things they say, the things they allow guests to say
Yeah.
on air. And this is all state
Yeah.
controlled. Like nothing is going to be said on these shows that doesn't have approval. And it is wantonly genocidal. Like we
Mm,
need to make Ukraine into glass. We need to destroy Ukrainians. Like we need to kill them all. Like it's they're well aware that the problem like that this war doesn't it's not one guy pulling these strings as there's sort of this bigger problem with their neighbor
yeah.
that enables him to do this on behalf of sort of the system that he is
So then what is it?
angling.
What's the what's the problem? What's
I
I mean,
mean,
what's wrong? Are they just morally bankrupt? Are they like what?
was this like morally bankrupt? And I mean, and to be honest, like I want to be very careful with what I say here because I think these are topics that are very sensitive
Mm,
and ones that I certainly wouldn't want to say anything that I'm is going to come out wrong or that I'm
yeah.
going to
Yeah.
regret. I think these are maybe easier dealt with in writing, where you can take a little bit of time to think about it. I don't think it's that, but I think dying empires flail hard. I think that's true historically in many cases.
Mm,
It's true for the Americans as well.
yeah.
Um, I think I think civilizations that see themselves, whether they use this word or not, but see themselves through an imperial lens,
Mm.
um, will tend to enact that on their neighbors, as especially when they feel that control slipping.
Well, and they don't, and I think people are not. I made up. I think I made this word up. I never heard it anywhere. Years ago, era centric, where I think people are very much wrapped up in your life and the moment you're in and whatever, and people don't. Uh, People think we're special right now, and people aren't very good students of history,
Oh
and
yes,
people don't like empires don't last forever.
no,
Empires all end,
yeah,
and so there's no reason to think that, say, the American empire. There's no reason to think that that's going to go indefinitely,
no, exactly.
because they all, I mean, Britain is still around, but it's not what it was.
It's certainly well, and
You
that's
know,
just it. And it's and there's certainly. I mean, I am not a Russia expert. I do not want to get, and this is why I mean, I don't want to get people being like you're completely wrong on this. But I would say my certainly everything I saw and every discussion I had with people who I know and people who are much more closely connected to this than me. Um, at the end of the day, certainly Putin, but not just Putin, the sort of the people around him,
mm.
um, they see themselves as having a sort of a rightful, like they see Ukraine as part of Russia's sort of rightful sphere. I mean, they're quite open about this. Like, they're quite open about the sort of the tragedies of history where that kind of they let these things like slip away from sort of Russian control.
And I know, and it's not just Ukraine. I don't think. I mean, I don't think he would stop at Ukraine if.
Well they haven't already. They already. I
Yeah.
mean they kind of of course it's not just Ukraine. It's every it's sort of the entire former
Yeah.
uh,
Soviet Union. Yeah.
Soviet, yeah. But this gets into really complicated territory. But I mean, that's why they've already kind of pulled the same tactics that they did in Ukraine and Georgia, for
Yeah.
instance. Which is you kind of like flame up and support a separatist
Yeah.
movement, so you have that toehold there if you want to launch this bigger thing, which is exactly what happened in Ukraine.
What do you wish that people here knew about Ukraine?
Of course, I know it's an incredibly beautiful place. Like I mean, incredibly beautiful, and I wish it like that was. It's funny because in some places looks very much like Manitoba, but it's sort of like a more vivid, more green, more vibrant version of Manitoba. Like gorgeous country, and very different. Like every part of Ukraine is super different. I wish, uh, yeah, like that's often what I somebody and I don't have a good camera, so I could never get that across well
Yeah.
enough in some of my social media. Like, we'd see these things and I'd be like, this is so beautiful, I can't handle it. And it just my photo kind of looked like but
Um,
um
my sister in law is Ukrainian, and her of Ukrainian background, and her grandfather, his brother or his cousin or somebody at the time said, come to Manitoba. There are so many strawberries, your feet will turn red just walking. Just walking,
yeah,
and then they ended up in Dauphin, and the farming in Dauphin is kind of okay, not
yeah,
great. Um, uh, so,
yeah.
um, uh, one thing that I'm curious about, I don't know if you know anything about this, is um, uh, how do you think? So, how's your Ukrainian?
um I can kind of I can read and get the gist of most things I'm reading. Speaking and understanding, I'm not
Mm,
great. Like depending on what they're saying, I think I can get maybe 40% of what people are saying, maybe 30 to 40.
mm-hmm,
And then speaking, I can kind of like I can get across what I need and how to achieve
yeah,
it. I was like studying off and on. I obviously was around it a lot, like constantly,
mm,
but I did slack off on like doing my
yeah.
sort of active tutoring at one point, and so that's why like my speaking's behind everything else. Yeah.
I'm just curious about how the people that have come here in the last couple of years, uh, how the Ukrainian, the Ukrainian that is still being spoken here that was from 100 years ago,
Oh,
if
that's it.
if that's
Oh, how
kind
they
of,
hear it.
yeah,
Oh, it's very different to them. That's
yeah,
very funny. But most of if like if you talk to some of the diaspora folks who've been to Ukraine like before,
yeah,
they all say the same thing. Like people will laugh and be like, "You sound like my grandma." You
yeah.
know. I would play for some of my friends.
It's funny.
I would play for some of my friends like some videos of like some diaspora people who I know speak Ukrainian, but like speaking or singing,
Yeah,
and they just thought they were like they have very funny accents, like or they'd use words that are like really old fashioned,
yeah,
right? Because I mean, which makes sense, like
yeah,
they learned from their
yeah.
grandparents, right? So they're kind of preserving this.
Is the Ukrainian food that we have here, is it time capsule food too, or is it?
I mean, that's all still there. I will say the one thing is that, like, yes and no, because one thing is a lot of the diaspora food doesn't have any Soviet influence. So a lot of these like
No,
Soviet things that are really popular there now, that a lot of the diaspora didn't have because they were there before,
right.
or came in before, yeah. This is kind of the Soviet Union. So some of these like Soviet salads and things, they got really bad.
Soviet salads.
There's a whole thing like, oh yeah, Soviet salads earlier, but some of them are great, to be honest. Like it's also very like because cuisine in Ukraine is quite regional. Schema. I spent most of my time in central Ukraine and the
Yeah.
east. Most of the diaspora is from the west,
Okay.
so that was interesting because there are definitely
Yeah.
some like traditional things that they don't like seem like I'd never seen here.
Yeah.
And when I showed people, they'd be like, I've never seen that in my life.
Hmm.
Like diaspora people from here, it's not part of their cuisine, but it's really popular there. Sometimes things are called different things, and
Yeah.
so like what you call a certain type of bread in one, or like the word for a, something might mean different things in different parts of the country. So what the diaspora calls babka, for instance, is really different than what most or pasca.
Hmm.
What the diaspora calls pasca is really different from what most of Ukraine calls pasca now. At least in my experience. But these are also dialect things. But yeah, no, like I don't know if I'd be able to hear the difference so much. Although when we would travel around Ukraine, when we got to the like kind of pre-Carpathian area, like
Hmm.
the west,
Hmm.
I could. It was the accent started being different enough that I could hear it.
Hmm.
Like the way they talked was
Yeah.
really different to me, and yeah, like so
Hmm.
that was interesting. So when it was enough of an accent
Hmm.
difference that even I was picking up on it, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Maybe
Yeah.
they're like the Newfies of Ukraine.
I don't know. if yeah, or something, or it's just like there's just a real lilt to it. It was
Yeah.
just a very different kind of sound to a very different sort of, as we say, prosody of the language.
I'm still just stuck on this whole Soviet salads thing. I feel like I want to open a food truck
I'll send you.
just selling Soviet salads.
That's 90% of it is mayo. I'll send you. I have this. I have this great. I have this great meme. Like it's called the Soviet salad matrix. And it's just like a graph of like ingredients on one side where it's mayonnaise, peas, eggs, and then the
Oh,
names of the different salads. It just checks off which of those
that's
10
amazing.
ingredients
Yes,
because they
please.
basically are all some combo of like mayonnaise, eggs, like fish sometimes, like yeah, yeah, anyway, I'll send this to you. It's very funny. Yeah,
So what are you gonna do now that you're back?
I'm back to work at
You
the free
just
press. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
So
just
they
like
you got,
it's
they
very
let you
weird.
come back. That's good.
Yeah, well, yeah, and life goes back to almost exactly what it was. And then so the funny part is too, I also like I went back to I'm in my exact same apartment because when I left for Ukraine in
Mhm.
January 23, I gave my like apartment, my car, my furniture, most of my like cooking stuff, like to this family from Kharkiv that had just
Yeah.
come to Canada. So they didn't have anything. So it
Mhm.
worked out great. It was like,
Mhm.
you can use this for a year
Mhm.
at that time. And then I'll come back,
Mhm.
but I was never going to take the apartment back.
Yeah.
Like, cause I was like, oh, I'll get a two bedroom. I'll get a
Yeah.
smaller place. Anyways, of course, then I stayed out for 2.5 years, more than 2.5 years. And so then they messaged me in summer that they were actually going to move to a bigger place. And I knew I was coming back. So I was like, why don't I just take my apartment back with all of my stuff still in it? So it worked out really nice, but it almost becomes weirder for me because it's like it feels like a time warp. Like
Yeah.
it gets more of the level of, did any of the last 3 years of my life really happen?
Maybe
Do
you're
you know what I mean? Because like
maybe you're still over there and also here.
I know this is like, or did I imagine it? But then it's like, no, I look 3 years older, and now I have this like Ukrainian boy texting me all the time. So so it's like, yeah, I guess it was real, but yeah, it's really weird because like my apartment looks like exactly like I left it. Like I got it all set up. I just once you helped graciously move my personal stuff back in, it's like, so yeah, it's wild. Yeah, so I think just I just want to spend the next, right now all I'm doing is like just trying to honestly take care of my well-being a little bit,
Yeah.
because I think my as we discussed, my mind
Yeah.
and body needed a real break. So just take a rest. I'm lying pretty low, just developing some healthy routines, like, exercise, good diet, good sleep, get back to work. And then we'll see what comes next. Like I
Take
do have some kind of exciting stuff happening in my like kind of personal and professional life. So I'm just trying to give myself a little grace.
what's going on with your guitar? I know it's in here because you don't want it to get stolen,
I just
but
didn't want to go, yeah.
why was it in the car in the first place?
Oh, yeah, it's really so. When I had left, my personal belongings got slightly scattered. Like
Oh, okay.
I left most of my stuff with someone, but then a few other things I left with other people. And one thing was my guitars. I didn't want to leave in this kind of original storage unit
Yeah.
I had. Just guitars are quite
Yeah.
personal,
You had one guitar, I think. We moved
yeah, but
one
that
guitar.
one
Yeah.
was like broken and
Yeah.
crappy. But my good guitars that I actually
Okay.
play.
That's just your guitar that you used to smash at the end of the.
No, that was my jazz guitar, but I don't have a plug for it right now. But no, but I had three acoustics.
Yeah.
I had my dad's guitar, which I left with my sister, and then I had my other two acoustics. And so I left those with my friend Ted Wyman, who sports writer from the Winnipeg Sun, who, as I'm sure a lot of people know, died earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then I was really hurt. Like Teddy was a really amazing guy, and I was really sad I was there. Like I was sad I couldn't be here with all of my
Yeah.
friends. Like Teddy was wonderful, and I left him with him because Teddy and I used to do a lot of traveling, different sports events, like me with the Free Press and the Sun, Post Media, and he was a great guitar player and a great singer. And so he would host these jams like in hotels. We'd break out these guitars, like have these jam sessions like in hotels. And he often did jam sessions at his house. So when I was left leaving for Ukraine, I was like Teddy, like take my guitars because then they'll get some use. Like I
Yeah.
know you'll treat him right. And he was So like he was like, dude, like that's like he was like so stoked about it. Yeah. So anyway, I had just picked them up from his widow this week, and then forgotten to take this one home.
That's another thing that happens as you get older.
Yeah,
You go to less weddings and more funerals.
I know.
And it does kind of make you think, let's let's not forget about the people,
I know.
that, I mean, because time just kind of just, where does the time go, right?
No, I know.
And then,
Exactly.
like uh we just have 2 minutes left, but I had a friend who, I found he's back in Taiwan, and I found out a couple months ago that he died.
Oh, God, so
And
sorry. Yeah.
uh and I looked, and the last message that I had with him was, a year and a half or 2 years before,
Yeah.
and it was about some weird thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was some.
No, I
He
know.
asked me to proofread. He had a little restaurant, and he asked me
Uh,
to proofread it in English or whatever, right?
Time
Something.
slips away. Yeah.
And you just go like, we gotta remember what's important, and we have to remember that that's the people that we care about,
Yeah.
and we have to remember to make time for
Yeah.
that stuff, because you get so caught up in
You do.
whatever, like, and the
That's right.
money thing is, you're talking about money, like all the things we do to make money, because we have to pay our rent and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. um it's sometimes you forget about, you're scrambling, and you forget about the
Yeah.
rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
um
it's true, and it's yeah, and yeah, I actually lost a few people that while I was over there. It's
mm,
just very strange because just especially because in the way that like part of uh, losing someone is sort of the communal sharing of
mhm,
like sharing community and sharing grief in community is very important. I felt very like I'm being very dislocated from that. Like
mm.
on the other side of the ocean, did not, yeah, was in some ways the most difficult kind of experience. Yeah. But
Well, you're back here
I am back.
in your
Yeah.
original community, in your original apartment,
Yeah.
with your original stuff. You got your original guitars
I
back.
do. Yeah.
um Thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having me.
stopping by and
Yeah.
sharing. Maybe you'll come back sometime and play a song.
I'll come back anytime. Yeah. Yeah. No, no, for sure. I just need to like practice up a bit. My
Well,
right
we'll
now I can't play because my nails are too
okay.
long. I've got these Ukrainian manicures that are just indestructible.
Well, you don't have to come back again
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Melissa Martin. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
stopping in. The rest of you, art will save us all.
All right. Well.
Thank you.